Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Turnaround Marriage Live. And we're excited to be here with you because we want to talk about something that is really outside of the box and something that we're also really passionate about. And that is turning conflict into closeness. Now, if you're out there and you realize, wow, we in our marriage, maybe we argue about a lot of things, or maybe you find yourselves arguing about things and you're not even sure why you're arguing about them. Whatever it is, if you realize that there's too much conflict in your marriage and you would want to improve that, today is exactly for you, because we want to show you how it can actually be the fuel. Hear what I just said. The fuel of driving you guys closer together. And if that's you, if that sounds interesting to you, we're so glad you're here for this edition.
Absolutely. Yeah. When we learned the secret of how to do this, it changed everything in our marriage. And so We're glad you're here. We are Scott and Rachel. We help committed Christian couples finally end the cycles of conflict, negativity, and disconnection and reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. So anyway, if you are looking to figure out how to turn your conflict into closeness in your marriage, we want you to tune in today.
Yes, this is really exciting. So what I want to do is kind of give a few different scenarios of different fights that we've had, and it's also something that we help our clients navigate through. So first example would be one of those ones that it maybe doesn't happen all the time, but maybe you find that you're having a fight and you get to the point like either you forgot why you were fighting, or you're in the middle of it and you're talking about something like, I don't know, the driving or something that happened with the kids, and you're arguing passionately about something that you don't even really care about. And you're like, how do we get there?
Yeah,
it's fair to say it happened to us a few times.
Well, yeah, it used to happen quite frequently, and sometimes it starts off when you're fighting about one thing, and then that leads to another thing, and then you bring something else up, and then pretty soon you're like arguing about something totally unrelated to what you first were talking about, and you're like, what are we even fighting about? Like, what are we fighting about?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that is one example that we seem to do a lot of, especially early on in our marriage, and they sometimes even still come up to this day. But it's like now we know how to get out of that. But has that ever happened to you? If it has, comment below. If you've ever been in a fight and you're like, what in the world are we fighting about? And were you able to figure it out? Because often the real problem is not what you're actually talking about.
Exactly.
It's usually, I mean, I want to say always, but usually it's something underneath, that's some unmet need that's not being met.
Right. So that's one example. And obviously that's something that I think every married couple can relate to at different times. And the reason why we're going to dig into it is because of our unmet needs. And we'll make that clear in a moment. But another example that we were thinking of is when you're fighting and you're fighting about something, but that's not the reason that you're actually fighting. You might be fighting because of external stressors. You might be fighting because one of your family members, extended family members, or one of your children is sick. Maybe somebody's got COVID and you're really concerned about their well-being. Maybe you're thinking about the politics and the things going on in our world that obviously are unnerving, and we're all concerned and praying for our country. That'd be another example. Do you have other examples come to mind for you?
Sure. Too? It could be a financial stressor, or just a stressor in your job, or you've got you don't have any energy, or you just feel really, really like pulled in a million different directions, and there's like no time for taking care of you. It could be just anything where it's like if you're already pushed to the limit and there are no margins in your life in the areas of your finances or time, energy, health, any of that stuff, then it's like any little thing can just like put you over the edge. And
you get home and you poke the bear,
and then the bear comes out. That's a big one, because the external stressors, I mean, while we're alive, we're going to have stressors in our life, right? As long as we have a pulse, there's going to be stress. There's going to be, and stress can be we need a certain amount of stress to live, right? You've got to have, stress on your muscles for them to stay strong. I mean, if there was no stress and you just laid in bed all day, you get weak and your butt muscles would turn to mush, and that'd be the end of it. So, but as long as there's external stressors,
sounds like a physical therapist talking. Sorry. Sorry.
There's always examples that come to mind for that. But so anyway, as long as we have a pulse, we're going to have external stress. But it's like, how are we managing that stress? And are we letting that stress build and build and build? And do we have our life so cramped full with everything that we don't have any room for figuring out how to manage your conflict, because when you're to the max, any little thing can push you over the edge, and it's might not be even what you're fighting about. It's you're really fighting because you're stressed to the max.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like in that moment, you may even feel like, it's you're all this stuff that's been going on, and she's coming at me like this, or he's attacking me like this. And in reality, it's not so much any particular thing you're talking about, but you have to understand that even in those moments, you're still needs to be met. So, for example, you still need to know that, say we're really upset about things going on in the world. You still need to know that I'm there to protect you, that I'm there for you, that I'm your defender, that I'm your knight in shining armor, that I'm going to be there no matter what. And equally, the other way around, I need to know, like, when things are stressful, that you're going to look to me with, honor me and respect me, and my kids are going to have respect for me, and my family will. And if those aren't being met, then it's a whole recipe for things getting mixed up. And it's like, why are we even fighting? It's not even what you're fighting about. It's the stressors. And it goes back to your needs not being met. Mm-hmm. So what's our third example?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the third example is when you're fighting and it seems like it's about one thing, but actually it's not even about that issue. It's about something completely underneath, some, like you said, some unmet need that hasn't been met. And we were, you can be in the middle of that and you can be like, why is he making such a big deal about this? Or, gosh, why is she nagging me about this? And you could really just attach a lot of meaning to it, and that kind of thing. But you've got to realize what you're fighting about is not actually what you're fighting about. It's something else.
It's very true.
And do you remember an example?
Why don't you share?
I don't know if I should share. Okay, because it was a recent date night. Okay,
it wasn't recent.
It was. It was. Yeah, it was in the last few months, and it was a date night, and I was excited to be able to go out and have some time with Scott. And so here I am, I'm putting my makeup on, I'm fixing my hair, I'm doing all this, and I'm just looking over there. He's like not even getting ready. He's like in his sweatpants and t-shirt and just like on his phone. And I remember the resentment starting to build. I just started making these stories up. I was like, oh, but he doesn't even care like how he looks. He's not even putting any effort into this date. Like he's just I'm like, are you getting ready? We've got to go. Like, I knew we only had so much time because of the kids' schedule. It was like, are you going to just sit around? And so I started feeling like he doesn't care. He doesn't care, how he looks. He doesn't care that why do I have to sit here and fix myself up if he's not even going to put on a shirt, It's like, and so I was starting to get pretty upset, and I wasn't saying anything, but the frustration and, the body language was clear. Yeah. That I wasn't happy with you.
I just thought you had a bad day, and, I wasn't even equating that at the moment. And so for me, it was like, oh, all right, tonight she's going to be in nag mode. And you're thinking he doesn't even care about me. And you can imagine the date didn't start off very good.
No, because I was like, are you wearing that? And you were like, what's wrong? And again, he figured out was being the nag. And I was thinking he just didn't care. Like, didn't care enough to put on a shirt. Then why do I have to dress up and he gets to look like a slob? Like, that's not fair. Like, do I not matter? Yeah. At all? And I attached all this meaning to it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens too, Rachel. And just to stack on that, that's when it's, especially if you've had a lot of seasons of difficulty there, and it's like, this is maybe kind of par for the course, and it's like you assign those meanings. You believe, oh, he doesn't want to dress up for me, he doesn't love me, he doesn't think I'm beautiful, he's not pursuing me, he doesn't even care about me. He just wants to look like a slob. He doesn't even want to present himself in public with me. There's so many things you could assign. I could assign, well, we're going backwards. She's just all she wants to do is nag me, attack me. She's just looking out for how I'm getting in the way. I'm just the problem again. She has no respect, or she doesn't want to honor me in any way. Like, all these things you can easily go down those paths. And as you can see, we've had in the past many times. And because in the heat of the moment, you can't necessarily see what's going on.
Right. As we often say, the inside of the jar cannot read the outside of the label.
Right.
So when you're in the midst of it, it's like, why can't you put on pants? And and you're thinking, why can't you stop nagging me? Why can't you respect me? And it wasn't really about the pants
either way.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about me needing to feel cared for, needing to feel like he was taking time out to take me out, and this was going to be a special time, not just like, well, let's just go, and likewise, he wanted to feel honored and respected in order to take me out. And so the thing that we were fighting about wasn't really what it was about. And so really the key really is to stop and step back and get a perspective on it. Because if we had understood what each other's needs were in the moment, it would have been very easy. I could have easily said to him, honey, I thought we were gonna, go out and spend some time together. It makes me feel uncared for when you don't put on pants, or whatever. I mean, he had sweats on, but still, And so that would have been probably a little bit better than like me shoving things around and just flying around on my broomstick in the bathroom.
You didn't do this, but you could have done this, and it would not have been helpful. Also, would have been, can you just put on some pants? Like you were communicating what you want to happen, but that still wouldn't have come out correctly. Right. So this is the key, guys. This is what we want you to understand. This is how you can begin to turn conflict into the fuel that will actually drive you together. Because if you take just a little bit of a step back, maybe you might even need to take a little bit of a time out to say, can I have a moment? Or you just excuse yourself, whatever it would be. But to remove yourself from the situation for just a second and to say, where could she be coming from? What might be going on in her heart? And what might her motivation be here? Is it simply to attack me? Or what? She's a good, loving, honorable woman. What could her motivations be?
Yeah, I am.
I'm just a slob in my underwear. No, I guess I had my pants on.
No, you're an honorable man. Yeah.
No, it's so, and so if you can take a step back and say, she actually is desiring to go on a date with me. She is desiring to spend a few minutes with me that are really special moments, not just slob moments, but she wants to go out and us be dressed up nicely and to enjoy this day. Wow, if I had thought about that for a moment, everything would have been different.
Or simply if you had understood, like, wow, she needs to feel my care for her in this moment. Yeah. That is what she needs. She needs to feel special, beautiful, valuable, whatever it is, and like cherished, which is what every woman deep down really wants, right? And in that same moment, the deepest thing that you needed in that moment was respect, and not feeling like I'm just going to nag you and belittle you because you don't live up to my expectations, Yes. And so it's so easy to get in those ruts, and so just taking that step back and getting the perspective can make all the difference in the world.
And here, and I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So to add to that, so the best perspective you could possibly have is if you have two honorable people together, especially if they're believers, they've trusted in Christ, they've received his forgiveness, they desire in that moment, most likely, to be closer. In other words, the man's here, the woman's here, they both desire each other. They both desire to be closer and connected. They're just coming about it in different ways. And when you could acknowledge that, wait a minute, she's just here and he's there, and we just need to meet in the middle. Instead, you're thinking, for a lot of different reasons, or it could be a lot of different things that are going through their mind. It's not about the pants. It's not about the dress. It's not about the date. It's the desire to be closer. That's what it's really about. And when you can identify, wait a minute, she might have had a really rough day, or I might be bringing some negativity or anger into the situation. But more than any of that, the biggest key factor is to say, wait a minute, she actually just wants to be close to me and she wants to lean into me. Why am I resisting that? Why am I fighting against that? Right?
Yeah. And so as we were able to resolve that conflict in our marriage, it was the fuel that drove us closer together, because we had a deeper understanding of what the other person needed, and we were able to then meet that need.
Right.
Whereas and that's where the rub is of conflict. So many of us, we have this thing of like, oh, as soon as there's conflict, one of you probably likes to just attack it head on and get after it and resolve it. And the other person probably wants to run away, retreat, cool down a little bit. And usually those two people are married to each other. It's just like inevitable, right?
True. Yeah.
And so if you come at your conflict with this preconceived idea of, oh, great, I have the pit in my stomach. Oh, yuck. Now I know this is going to be a fight. Oh, great. Now I know we won't be intimate tonight, or whatever it might be. All of that, all of those meanings that you're giving it and all that stuff you're saying in between your ears to yourself is actually going to pull you closer. Pull you farther apart. Whereas if you could come to the understanding and get the perspective of what they need, that can drive you closer. It's like, oh, now I understand what you need. That's the good thing about conflict. So when we can start to change our mindset about what conflict means, what does it mean? Does it mean that we're going to always fight? No, it doesn't have to mean that. And most likely you married an honorable person, and most likely you can believe the best about them. But I think so many couples get into these ruts of they don't know how to get out of it. They're now, every little thing that comes out of their mouth, they can fight, and they just can't get on the same page.
And it's become the norm.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do?
Yeah. I think, well, first of all, it can be really difficult, like we said, in the moment, even if you know how to get out of it. Like, it can be really hard to see. It's even harder to see that if that's been the norm for a long time. Yeah, because that's the way you've been operating.
Right. Because, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But it's like, because those triggers, it's like, oh, now you just pushed my button. And so now I'm going to go there. You almost get in that fight or flight mode where you're like, okay, my not literally, but I'm ready to go.
Yeah. You've got to fight to get back on the same team at that point. And usually I just want to lay it out there, guys. This is usually what needs to happen, because a lot of couples, this is exactly where they get stuck. If I had a dime for every person I talked to and I asked the question, what's not working in their marriage? And they said communication. This is where the communication breakdown is. Mm-hmm. What is the other person's motivation? Where are they coming from? They're attacking me, or she's pushing my buttons, or whatever it is. But it boils down to misunderstanding what the other person's motivations are. And so I want to say to you that a lot of times when it has those deep-seated ruts, it's really difficult to see from in the heat of the moment, or even if you take a little step back, what is actually going on there. And that's where you actually need an outside person to really step in, to not be on his side or her side, but to step in and to help you guys as a couple identify what's been going wrong. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of that is, when we work with some of our couples, you could even share about the example from this week that was really awesome that we heard.
Yeah. One of our rock star clients, they're graduating this next week.
Yeah, they're graduating.
They were separated for, like at least 4 months, and they've come back together in our program, and they're just happy and connected. They've learned how to get out of these ruts, and just see their joy. But they said, last week, it was like during the holidays, we started to get into it. And the husband said, I started to go into my old patterns. And my wife, she called out the best in me, and she reminded me of who I am. And they were so happy, because they said, guess what? We have all these tools. He held up a tool belt and he said, we have all these tools in our tool belt now that now we're able to get out of this. And so we were able to resolve it.
They didn't need us. That was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah. So we taught them how to coach themselves out of that. And that was the coolest thing, is like, when you can get the right tools, the right support, the right mindset, like anything is possible. You can get out of these ruts. And that was true for them. And it was just so cool to say. They said, guess what? You promised you would teach us how to turn conflict into closeness, and you did. It works. Thank you, Scott and Rachel. So cool. And it was just so cool. And that's just our honor to do that. And so we do invite private clients to work very closely with us for a short time to really help you if you guys are really stuck. Mm-hmm. And so we just want you to know that is available to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to encourage you, if you're realizing, hey, we might need that outside person to get a perspective on what's going on. That's exactly what we offer for free on our breakthrough call. And you can just go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call, book a free call. And what we do is we talk about what's not working in the marriage. And usually in that first question, we dive into your different perspectives. And especially if I can get both of you on the phone and we're talking about what's not working, I can help you guys to see where the other person's coming from. Mm-hmm. And then we talk about what you guys hope and dream that this marriage could be, and a path to get there. And if I can help you, I'm absolutely going to make that clear on the call, what it would look like for us to have that higher level of support. But we help a lot of people simply for free to help them to get that clarity. And that's so rewarding too, because so many times people are fighting about all these things and they're not actually discussing what is the core problem. The core problem is not, he didn't buy me a very nice gift for Valentine's Day. There's so much more going on than that. There's so much more going on than COVID happened, right? What are the core issues there? And everybody deserves to get clarity on what's not working. And especially if they're if they're headed for divorce, we wouldn't want that or wish that. But even if that's where you're going, at least you deserve to know what went wrong, what really went wrong, instead of, well, we fought a lot.
So that you don't continue to make the same mistakes, because people think, oh, well, I just need a new partner. That'll resolve it. But guess what? You're going to bring all of your old habits.
Yeah, 50% of the problem is still there,
Right. I mean, so typically, we see that second marriage, tends to not go as well often as well, because if you haven't learned what went wrong in the first place, then how can you fix that on the second or third round or whatever? And so whatever marriage you're in, we want to help strengthen that marriage. Yeah. And we would love to help give you that clarity on a breakthrough call. So, if that's you, I guess go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call, book the call to speak with Scott. He'll give you the gift of that clarity. And then you could see if you guys are a good fit to work with, because it is truly our joy and honor to work closely with clients and get them back, because these are trying times. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, but if we can strengthen the family, if we can strengthen the home right here at home, like we have beaten a lot, right?
Yes, absolutely. And imagine this. I want to leave you with this parting thought. Imagine if your spouse could understand where you're coming from and vice versa. Imagine that those points of conflict in the past actually is something that help you to get further understanding about one another, that, wait a minute, she's desiring me, and vice versa. Everything can change, guys. This could be the fuel that you don't even have to have. I mean, makeup sex might be wonderful, but to know that even that conflict is going to drive you closer together because you have further understanding about your spouse specifically and where their heart is. Can you see how this is going to be fuel for closeness?
Yes, because it doesn't have to be just fighting about all the symptoms. We can figure out what is the underlying diagnosis, what is the underlying problem there, and everything can change. And we want to also encourage you, it doesn't have to take months and months and months and years and years and years. Okay, this can be done relatively in a short amount of time. We are busting that myth every day. So we look forward to you booking that call with Scott at turnaroundmarriage.com/call.
You guys have a great afternoon. God bless you, and hope to talk soon.
Bye-bye.